Good morning, good afternoon for some of you, I know. We are in Spain, so we go with the Spanish time. Welcome to this plenary of the third day. I hope you all have enjoyed the first, the second day, and also that those of you that also joined the dinner yesterday, I think we had a good time together. And it's great to really enjoy the content here, but also the people as well. Well, we are in our plenary of the third day, and I would like to invite our first speaker. We are very honored to have here today with us Els Bridgestreet, Head of Unit Publications Office of the European Union. And she is going to talk about making complex data topics speak through visual storytelling. Please, big applause for her.
So, good morning, everyone. Also, on my behalf, on Spanish time, I'm Els, and in practice, I'm working on data.europa. More specifically, I'm heading the communication and outreach team. And it's in that perspective that I'm coming here today to, after these 3 very intensive and very interesting days, to give you or to tell you a story. A light, small story about visual storytelling and how it can maybe help you in your organization. So before I dive into the topic, a little word on data.europa, because I think it can be an interesting tool for all of you. This picture depicts well how it all works together. So in the middle, we have our portal, data.europa.eu, which is a European official portal for open data. On the one side, you see we have our data providers. These are public administrations coming from all over Europe and as well geoportals. We harvest them or their data on all levels. It goes from European, national, regional to local. And all these data, we collect them, we describe them with as rich as possible metadata as we can. We give them a license, mostly an open license, and like that they become available to our data users. And as you see on the picture, that's a wide variety. There are developers, researchers, journalists. It can be you and me. And we can do all kinds of things with these data. We can write fact-based articles. We can use it for our PhD. We can create maybe a value-adding app out of it. And all that information, we always invite our data users to share this back with us so we can share it on the portal to inspire others. Also, if anyone has feedback, we always invite them to send it to us. And this, again, we feed to the data providers to, like that, try to make the portal ever better. And all this data, you can just simply find on the portal. This is not rocket science. We have, for the moment being, over 1.6 million data sets coming from 179 data providers. You can find this data just by navigating or by using the search and filtering options. Maybe also good to know, being here in Spain, it's not all in English. It's not for everyone so easy to speak English, to understand English. This is why we make our website in 24 languages, the 24 official languages of the European Union. All our metadata are translated, and for all the rest, we provide European Commission-made machine translation. We don't only share data, but also some information around data. This is news, our monthly newsletter. We have a calendar of events where we also published this forum. We commission studies, we publish the reports coming out of them, and last but not least, we regularly write and publish data stories, and I will tell you a little bit more about those later. And then, what we also have, and this is one of our flagships projects, is the Data.Europa Academy. Because as you all know, and maybe you were confronted with it in your own organization or in your own life as well, there is a lack of data skills. And we try to do something about it by putting in place the Data.Europa Academy. This is an online platform, but it's also, in a way, a real-life university almost. We regularly organize webinars, and lately we had one every 2 weeks, I think. They are accessible to all of you completely for free. We record them, we publish the notes, the slides, etc., all on this Data.Europa Academy, where you can all watch it at all times. I invite you all to check it out. We had, for example, a very successful series on data spaces. It was one of the most popular ever, so the work you do generates a lot of interest. And maybe for the upcoming year, I can already say that we have a series of workshops on data and artificial intelligence. So you're invited to come to those and to all our other events. And then let's go to the storytelling. As I said, it's just a light topic. Maybe you say, well, this is nothing for me. Well, then just take a nap. So, as I said, we publish data stories on Data.Europa. And what are these? It are inspirational little stories about a specific sector of data, or we do an interview with a data provider. Could be also any of you, because we invite everyone to come to us with a proposal. And with these stories, we try to explain complex data to just lay people or to a bit more experts in a certain niche. And when we started to write them, they were quite text-based. We had some visual, some image or a screenshot maybe, but the text stayed quite long, and we noticed that it took quite a bit of words to explain something difficult in normal language. So we thought, this is not really working. How can we do this better? And this is how we came up with the idea of visual data stories. And what are these? Well, for these data stories, we work together with both data journalists and data visualization experts. And I can even call these experts artists, because as you see on the screen, you will see on the next slide a couple of examples. These visuals are really well done. So they work together, they analyze the data. First of all, the artist comes up with the visuals, and the journalist then writes some short text with it. The advantage of all this is that the stories become much shorter, much more attractive, and as we all know, online we don't feel like reading a long text. So people read it more easily, read it more, remember better, and also, if you see a visual, always you have some kind of reaction. You may find this circle beautiful, ugly, non-sane, but you have some kind of reaction. And the fact that you have a reaction will make sure that you remember it better. The visuals also make sure that it's clearer, because if you see something like that and you look a couple of minutes at it, it says much more than if you would look at the thousands and thousands of data that are sitting behind that. That would just be a pot of data and then numbers. So if all this inspires you already a little bit to get started with yourself, I can share some tips and tricks. So for you or your people in your organization working in communication, Some may sound very obvious, but it never harms to repeat them. First of all, adapt your tone of voice. Know who you are writing for. It will be different if you're in Siemens and trying to explain something to the secretaries, or if you're working in a university and writing a story that is supposed to be read by your students. Be also structured. Put the most important information on top, use clear headings, and make sure that if you use these visuals, they're also readable for everyone, also for colorblind people maybe. And you may say, but how is this possible? Look at that. It's full of pink and purple or different shades of yellow. Well, if you have a close look at our visuals, you will always see that the color is not the only distinctive element to understand the visual. And also make sure to put a legend. It may sound obvious, but otherwise you base your story on data, but people will interpret it the way they want. Then some other things to remember is stay on the facts, stay honest. When we start to write something, we always make some assumptions. This is human. And maybe when you analyze the data, something completely different will come out. With data, you can prove everything. We all know this. But don't get tempted to twist the story. Just tell what the data say and let the people decide. Also, these stories, in a way, I can recommend all of you to do a little test with your data, to try to visualize it. And if there is something wrong with the quality or with the quality of the metadata, it will come out. Bubbles will pop up where they don't have to pop up, and you will see, this is not going well. So it's a good quality checking tool on top. And then also, be always consistent. If you work with two people together on something, don't work next to each other, work with each other. And with this, I already come to the end. I promised it would be short. If you want to get started yourself, or someone in your communication or marketing team, and you don't really know where to start, we recently published a data visualization guide. It's a very rich textbook almost, but very visual also. And it guides you really through from the very basics to very, very expert things already. And then also on our academy, we have some specific courses on how to do these visualizations. If ever you or a colleague or friend of yours start to do such a story, please share it with us. We will publish it with a lot of pleasure. And like that, it can come next to our stories that we have already on different data spaces, on artificial intelligence and open data, etc. Also, if back at home or later today you have a look at the portal and you have some feedback or an idea to improve it, please get in touch. You have all our contact details here. So I invite you, I don't know if you have still time for questions now. You can ask them now, or otherwise, I look forward to stay in touch with you in the lunch later today or otherwise remotely. So thanks a lot for the invitation to come and tell my little story here and for listening.
Okay, thanks a lot, Ilse, for your inspiring words and presentation. I don't know, we have time for maybe a couple of questions. I don't know, anyone from the audience have any question to Ilse? Okay, so again, really nice, inspiring, and my applause again. Thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot.
And it's okay. Now, okay, you know that EBDBF is not new. We are a consolidated brand, I would say. So I would like to invite on stage Locke Levax, who is a research director on SAP and also vice president of BDBA. She's going to tell us a bit more about the history behind EBDBF, but also she's going to make some announcements. So a big applause for Log. Log, welcome on stage.
Yeah, thank you. So we go back in history a little. So it's was supposed to be at the end. So now we go back because of some presence issue. I don't know. We have the slides. Yeah, go.
Is the same presentation?
Sina, do you know? If not, that's okay. Sina, do you know? No? Okay. Okay. No slides. No preparation. That's okay. That's part of it. Yeah. So at first, I mean, we keep repeating since the beginning of this event. Again, this is the event is for you. This is about this community. This is by members for members. And remember, so the first EBDVF, I mean, named that way, started in Versailles in 2017. Then we did Vienna in 2018, Helsinki in 19. We were supposed to do Berlin, so it was a virtual one in 21 Ljubljana. Sorry, no, I'm missing now. Yeah, 21 Ljubljana, and then Prague. So Ljubljana was also kind of a virtual. Ljubljana was the first time we again met in person, and now Valencia. But there was something like before EDVF, because we already started. I mean, the BDVA started in 2014 more or less, and we had some summit, and we were in 2016 in end of November, beginning of December here in Valencia. I mean, not in Feria, it was a smaller crowd at that time. We were hosted, so Daniel Saez, I don't know where, I don't see the audience, but hosting us in the university venue. So we come back to square one, more or less. But this is important, and this is evolve a lot. I mean, from the first, little activity group that we have now, we have this big event. But it's still, what I like in it is really still this, we exchange, we network, we meet each other, and we know how important is the in-person aspect as well. And I mean, maybe most of the topic you know them already, but it's still good to exchange, to waterproof, to see new partners, etc. So that's and we want to really keep this again and again. So next year we will go we try to follow the European presidency countries. So next year we will go to Budapest. So I would like to invite Edina Nemet on stage to maybe tell a little about it. Jona Edina.
So thank you very much. It's been quite fascinating to see that you've been active since 2014, and next year, 2024, it will be the time for the Hungarian presidency. So it is my pleasure to invite the European Big Data Value community to Budapest next fall, to the next edition of this event, on behalf of a lot of actors that are related to some of the topics that were discussed at this conference. Just to name a few, the data economy actors, the AI Coalition of Hungary, the AI National Laboratory. We also have a Quantum National Laboratory. So everyone is really, really eager to see the community and find ways to cooperate in the future. Thank you.
Találkozunk jövőre Budapesten. So you will have to prepare this. This is one of my pictures, because I used to be 20 years ago now in Budapest, so it was kind of a cultural adventure, I would say. So that's maybe it's one of personal pictures, so it's not touristic one. Maybe just yeah, okay. We lost the. Yeah, that's about it. So there are plenty of pictures, by the way, they will be available. There will be also, the slides will be available. So, if you have, of course, if you want to contribute to next year, that's really important as well. It's a lot of preparation. We have to thank Sina, we have to thank the BDVA team, Daniel, etc., for the next one.
Okay, Lo, so thanks a lot for your intervention, and I think we'll be really happy to continue the discussion next year in Hungary. Okay, so now it's time for a discussion. Okay, you know that the whole event is about data and AI. So now we would like to have a panel, very interesting panel regarding AI in action, called AI in Action. The idea is to reflect about some facts that we have done also during the event, and also to discuss and to decide what is next. Okay. So I would like to invite on stage several panelists. So we have Natalie Bertels from KU Leuven. So I welcome Natalie on stage. We have Elena Montiel also from UPM, professor from UPN. Okay. And we have also, I would like, can we have the other slide deck, please, the previous one? Because there we have also the faces and the positions. Okay, it's been a bit complicated. And also finally, Andres from Tilde. Okay, Andres, so. How we are sitting together. Okay, please take seat. Yeah, the three of us, because I would like to excuse Jalel has to left, and my colleague Danny Saez from ITI also has to left. So we are here, the three of us. So first of all, thanks all for being here, and also really appreciate it that we can have this final discussion about AI. So first question, I would like for you to introduce yourself, okay? To also to say your position towards the AI community and also your role in this endeavor. So please, Nena, I will start with you. If you can introduce yourself.
Sure, thank you, Daniel. So my name is Elena Montiel. I'm an associate professor at UPM, Universidad Politécnica de Madrid. And I also belong to the Ontology Engineering Group, a research group in the AI department. We have been working on mainly knowledge representation, open science, linked data, language technologies for many years now. And currently, we are coordinating as a project funded by the Spanish government, in which we would like to explore the creation of an incubator for data spaces in Spain.
Yeah, my name is Andres Vasilios. I am co-founder and board member of language technology company Tilde. And at Tilde, we work hard to make sure that all languages in Europe can benefit and provide the same opportunities in digital technologies as larger languages can, and in areas like machine translation, speech processing, and question answering. And we embrace recent developments with large language models to make virtual assistants smarter, and especially for public sector institutions and governments to provide new type of employees, virtual assistants, what can answer to and support the users of e-government services.
Does it work? Yeah, it works now. Yes, so thank you, Danielle, and hello, everyone. My name is Natalie. I work for CITIP, the Center for IT and IP Law. We are a research center, and I'm representing here a great team of researchers in law and ethics at the law department of the faculty of the KU Leuven, so the University of Leuven, and we're also an affiliated research group to IMEC. So in our team, we are working on data regulation, data governance, AI regulation, trustworthy AI, cybersecurity, robotics. It's a broad spectrum of the legal and ethical challenges that are brought by IT and IP innovation. So where we put our, well, unique selling point, maybe it's not as unique, but at least where we put a lot of focus is really on maximizing the value of our research. So I think we can also show here from the event and from the people in the room that it's really important to work together in an interdisciplinary manner so that we bring law, technology, economics, societal research together, and that's the way we will tackle today's challenges.
Perfect. So thanks a lot. As you can see, very different profiles, but at the same time complementary, also contributing to the adoption of AI and so on from the innovator perspective, language and also language data models and also ethics and regulation. So now you have run different sessions during the event, okay? So I would like for you to talk to the audience, okay, some insights from the session, where have you learned, what you have learned, maybe next also takeaways also for the future. Can start with you, Elena?
Yes. Okay. So together with Andres, we organized a session on large language models, okay? A fashionable topic nowadays. It was very well attended, and we had a great panel of speakers coming from research, but also from the European institutions and from the industry. We had several companies represented there. Andres' company was one of them. And we had very interesting discussion, and maybe one of the first takeaways was that Europe has an opportunity as for language and cultural diversity, to get our language diversity represented in large language models. As you are all well aware, large language models have been mainly trained on English data. Even the biggest languages are very underrepresented, not to talk about minority languages or small languages in Europe. So there are some efforts already to train large language models with data coming from different languages. And I think, well, as was mentioned, we have an opportunity there so that our languages and cultures are also well represented in large language models.
So thanks a lot, Elena. So this is the perfect lead for you, Andre. So we were discussing yesterday about this hot topic, large language model, and you from the industry perspective.
Yeah, and also as a board member of BDVA, I was happy to chair that session and lead the large language model and generative AI track at this conference. And indeed, with technology, and provide exciting opportunities, but they also bring new challenges. And what was discussed during this conference at several sessions was that we need to make sure that we create in Europe a safe and trustful environment for use of generative AI and large language models. And for this, regulation is important. And in some sense, the discussions of AI Act taken a lot of time, but we caught with ChatGPT appearance in surprise, but it helps to take into account the very recent developments and to make sure that these technologies are not misused for misinformation, are not biased, respect privacy, and we believe that Europe can take the global lead in setting rules for trustworthy use of these technologies. And another aspect what was largely discussed was the need for Europe to advance infrastructures. And we do see massive investments and developments in US and China, and Europe needs to make sure that the critical components, computing infrastructure, high-performance computing infrastructure is in place and is scaled up for the needs of for generation of large language models, and the data is available. And for this, yeah, your HPC is a very important infrastructure and should be also more scaled for these needs. And data spaces, especially language data space, what is based on previous developments by language technology community is essential to provide the data in different languages, in different domains, to make sure that in Europe we probably cannot compete in the scale of large language models, to have larger and larger models. And this is a dead end. It's not good for environment, it's expensive, it's not affordable. In Europe, we have to make sure that we can find new methods to have more compact, smarter models that are serving different needs, different tasks in cost-efficient way. And this is what also was discussed at our sessions.
Okay, so you brought up several points. Connection with HPC is key. You also mentioned AI Act and ethics. And again, it gives me the lead for you, Natalie. Probably you in your session, you also address those aspects of regulation, ethics, and privacy. So what can you say about your input from the session?
Well, yes, indeed. And we hear this discussion indeed between regulation and innovation and balancing both of them and how this is perceived within the AI Act. We, inspired by this topic and driven by different communities also within BDVA, like the Task Force 5 on policy and regulation and societal issues, the ATAMI group, there were different support for having a session and on regulatory sandboxing. So the session that I moderated was focused on indeed the tools of regulatory sandboxing for AI. What we did in the session, we had a very extensive panel, super good input from different perspectives. And what was clear was that we really needed to clarify on the notion, because there's a lot of experimental tools out there. There's living labs and test beds, and there's also these regulatory and sandboxes, and there's regulatory sandboxes. So we saw that it was because we were approaching it from the different angles and from certain pilots that were in Spain and the pilot in the Netherlands, and the ways it was approached in different projects. So we were seeing that the notion itself and distinguishing it from other experimental tools and looking at the different dimensions of testing. So whether we go with a guidance approach, whether we go with actually real life testing within the sandbox, that there was a lot of issues that we needed to clarify. So this clarification need we clearly saw from the panel, and we started this discussion, so that was great. We already had many inputs, but we clearly see that that's also something that needed to be continued. And maybe I could share from a second takeaway that we did have also a broader view on what's already out there with different pilots, different projects, also made the connection to data spaces, the TEFs. So we see that there's these links that we, from this perspective of finding the right balance between regulation and innovation, we should make. And I think there we have an ideal community that could contribute to this.
Okay, so thanks a lot. Okay, perfect. So very, very interesting. So now just to finalize the panel, I would like for you to final remark. Actually, you have to summarize in one challenge and how, from your seat, we can overcome those challenges. This challenge, just to finalize the session and final remark, Elena, from your side.
So from my side, I'm continuing with one of the takeaways I was mentioning. I would say data sharing, so identifying, compiling, processing data is still needed in all languages. So although many successful initiatives have been going on for many years now, we still need institutions, public institutions to kind of encourage every institution and companies to share data.
Yeah, my takeaway and also what from the session was that we, so that society and businesses can benefit fully, get the full benefits out of these developments in generative AI, the full value chain should be created. And there are essential elements what should be connected and some missing gaps. So we have to create a value chain consisting of computing infrastructure, HPC infrastructure, of data infrastructure. Data spaces play a major role, but we also to make sure that we are connecting layers, tools and services, what make it easier for businesses and researchers to experiment, to innovate, to create new services and applications based on these infrastructures, to lower the entry barrier and to provide the skills what are necessary for that.
Finally, Natalie, from your side.
Well, what we were seeing is that if we're working towards like a successful implementation and functioning of those regulatory sandboxes in the different member states, what we really need is an increasing need for, well, actually for knowledge sharing, for talent, for capacity building. And I think there we have a unique role to play as a community. So I would like to, it's a call for action. It was a pickup, so we pick this up now and we continue with this, because I think these three elements, like the talent, the knowledge sharing, the capacity building, this is what we need.
Okay, so thanks a lot. I think we have takeaways, we have challenges, we have the measures and the plan. So, okay, let's continue the discussion. Next year in Hungary, we will see each other again, and let's see how we can achieve. Okay, so a big applause to our panelists, because thanks a lot. And okay, I will give the floor again to Anna.
Yeah, thank you very much. It has been great. And actually, we will meet each other before Hungary next year, because, you know, in this event, we have been talking a lot about collaborations, and we will continue in a moment. But many of the discussions or topics that have been addressed in this panel will be continued in 2 weeks in the ADRA Forum, AI Data and Robotics Forum, that takes place in Versailles in 2 weeks, 8th and 9th of November. So many of the things that you heard now will continue there. So please join us there as well. Well, now, and I need to pass the slides. We have, I have the great honor, so we have been talking about AI in action. I don't like to separate AI and data, but okay, this time I have a great honor to have with me a group of people I have had the honor to work with for 2 years. And this is the Data Spaces Business Alliance, and in particular the CEOs of the Data Spaces Business Alliance. And we wanted to bring to you here today in the panel, well, our vision and to show our collaboration. We are talking about sustainable impact in this event. Sustainable impact we can only achieve with really very strong collaborations in Europe. And you will see now an example of one of the strongest, in my opinion, that I have experienced in the last few years. So I would like to welcome on stage Roland Fadrani, Chief Operation Officer of GaiaX. Of course, Thomas Hahn, our President, and also his Vice President of GaiaX. I would like to call also Ulrich Alle, CEO of the Firewall Foundation. And we have from Germany, Lars Nagel, who really wanted, CEO of IDSA, he wanted to be with us today, but unfortunately, because of personal reasons, he couldn't, but he made the effort to be with us online. So thank you, Lars, as well. And I will join the panel this time, and will be Thomas who moderates the panel. Big applause, please.
Okay, also a warm welcome from my side. And Anna, normally I will not correct you, but this time I will correct you. I will not moderate the panel. Maybe orchestrating a little the panels, because we are cooperating and this is, let's say, also the attitude or the flavor, how we are working together. Only, sorry, normally I never do this, but I have to correct this. So we're sitting together, and Lars, perfect that you are connected online, and we're sitting together here, and you have seen this is regarding the data space business alliance, and maybe I'm starting with 2-3 sentences, or 5 or 6, let's see how many I need, about a database business alliance, what was the motivation behind this, how we are doing this, what is our attitude in working together, and so on. And my first comment about attitude was exactly my comment about moderation or moderation of the panel. But maybe I start what was driving us. It was somehow in September 2021, August, September, and then we are putting our heads together and said, we are looking at a comparable topic around data spaces, value of data, however you name this, applications, from different perspectives. Maybe we have a similar perspective, maybe a different one, but it's not an issue. We're looking from different views on the same topic. And that's why we said it here, and Anna, you said it also in the beginning, let's just work together. Also we have not done a big thing, a big 251 pages contract. No, we have, I think, 1 or 2 pages where we roughly, and to be honest, I don't want to remember what is written in the pages on these 2 pages, but only in very short, over 2.5 or 1.5. Thanks, Lars. Overview. What we are doing and what we want to do and why we want to do this. Maybe also I'm allowed coming from industry to highlight a little bit also, and I have done this also in the opening of this fantastic conference. What is driving us? You know, I said it before, data spaces are popping up. I think I used to with mushrooms. You know, we have in tourism dates here in Spain, for example. We have for energy, we have for manufacturing, health. Don't ask me how many data spaces are in the last 2, 3, 4 years are coming up. So we have the obligation to support this and to create together impact. And why? And now I'm allowed maybe to have one example. I used this also on Wednesday at the beginning of the conference, only to show a little bit why this is needed. And my apologies against the example from manufacturing where I'm coming from. When you're looking at manufacturing, when you're looking only on a product carbon footprint, when you look at the shop floor where you see only the scope 1 and 2, maybe 10-20% of the CO2 emission, the other part is in the upstream or downstream. Also meaning you can imagine how many you not see when you're only looking at the shop floor. And you can imagine that, you know, when you have some kind of data economy, data spaces in the background where you include the upstream part and the downstream part, when you have also the connectivity to them, not only for reporting, but also to look at it, how you can influences in a positive sense, meaning in this case reduction of CO2 emission. You can imagine why the data spaces, data is becoming so relevant. This was somehow my statement, and we can extend this to a supply chain, resilience of supply chain. You can speak about battery passport and, but nevertheless, in a nutshell, is around data economy and what we can do. And therefore, we had, let's say, the obligation in supporting this and to creating impact. So that's on the one side. What is the need behind this? And for sure, as industries, there's one topic, or in business is one topic that you are doing this to improve something. I've done the example regarding a reduction of CO2 to improve processes, to get more efficient. And on the other side, also to facilitate or to trigger new business opportunities. And just let's say it's a little bit with some examples why we are heading this, why we are targeting this, and to be honest, let's say also need from the industry perspective why we are doing this. So and when you're now looking at the European landscape and where we are somehow together connected with, the industry, with the research institute, with the governments, with associations who can count, you can summarize this. But when you're now looking at this, what is the European landscape, and I think André mentioned before the HPC, when I remember correctly. We have the, the stack, with the HPC, compute and storage, with the quantum initiative. We have the data infrastructure with the communication. We have the data spaces. We have the data value with the AI, and I just mentioned some of the projects, applications like dates or like manufacturing domain in the energy domain. So, and this is why we can handle this somehow together, and this is also our intention, and as I said before, also obligation. And I think we have achieved something. We have achieved several things. We can achieve more. Yes, it's always the case. But I give you only 2-3 highlights, and then Anna, Ulrich, Roland, and Lars stepping into. Simple example. We applied together for the Data Space Support Center and coordination support activity, cross industry, supporting the building up of data spaces. That we have done. We have then targeted different verticals. We are in the skills data space, in the manufacturing, don't ask me else, I think in smart cities, and so on, but it doesn't count. You see only how we are building up the network to create impact. And this is, we also looked what is our, yesterday was the iSpace ceremony, how we can also link the different hubs together to create impact, to have close to our customers support. This is driving us. This is, let's say, where we are. And as said before, attitude, we are just working and avoiding, let's say, unnecessary topics and just focus on the things. But maybe Ulrich, jumping a little bit, elaborated from your perspective what we have achieved up to now in the area of technologies. What are your thoughts? And please correct me if I'm wrong.
No, you are completely right. And with the perspective of technology, and this was one of the 4 targets when we created the Data Spaces Business Alliance, to create one common architecture. The other 3 were to speak with one voice to the market, to combine the more than 100 hubs we do have, or iSpaces in the case of BDVA. And finally, we are combining more than 1,000 members, so a very strong voice here in Europe. Coming to the technology, we created, and we in this case mainly means the teams around our chief technology officers, a common architecture, and we call this technology convergence. The first version was published already a year ago. The actual version is 3-4 months old. And although this hasn't been falling from the sky, and this is a main intention from the technology point of view of the Data Spaces Business Alliance, not to reinvent the wheel. Yeah? We are defining a common architecture for the creation of interoperable data spaces being operated on federated cloud infrastructure, and to select available technology wherever possible. So not to reinvent the wheel, but to combine them. And only there where there are white spots, and maybe we will come to a large European project later called Simple that fits very well into this story. Only there new technologies should be invented. And this also means we have not started from scratch. I see some faces here who have been working in a European-funded project called OpenDI, and there was the first idea to create some so-called building blocks for the creation of interoperable data spaces. Building blocks organized in 4 groups. The first one is on data exchange, so common interfaces, common data models. The second one is on trust, a prerequisite for the creation of data spaces. The third one is on data monetization, very important for the sustainability of data spaces. And the fourth one is on the business models, on the whole governance structure. So how to set up, how to operate such a data space from the business perspective. And this technology convergence was created by the Data Spaces Business Alliance, was provided as an input also to the project, Thomas, you mentioned, to the Data Spaces Support Center. So this is a project started nearly 1 year ago, or exactly 1 year ago. On October 1st of last year, we had, and then in October, we had the big kickoff in Brussels with a large consortium working on the creation of the technical guidelines for the creation of interoperable data spaces in Europe. And our big aim is to come up with a set of building blocks which are to be used or can be used when creating domain-specific data spaces, with the aim to have, let's say, 80% of the building blocks really being domain agnostic. So building blocks which can be used in industry, in manufacturing industry, in mobility, in energy, in agriculture, and so on. And to have only the remaining 20% really domain-specific. But this base of 80% shall be an enabler to create also the interoperability between these data spaces. And this is very, very important. And yeah, this is a bit of view on the technology development, which we started in the Data Spaces Business Alliance, working very close together with the Data Spaces Support Center. And we are working very close together with these 4 organizations. And looking at presentations today, I think we still have to improve to give a clearer picture to all of you who are asking, what shall I do when I want to build a data space? What to use? And but I think we made some very good first steps. Still a way to go, but we are on a good way.
Many thanks, Ulrich. 100% agreed. Also, the topic regarding data monetization and business model is really, and I mentioned before, to get not only to improve, but also to look to new business opportunities. That's what is touching us or is necessary for us. And when you are asking me as an industry where we're still scratching our head how we can do this, the help is needed. And you are absolutely right with the services. You mentioned what is a common basis and so on. As in manufacturing, we have some kind of a shared service layer, exactly versus common services, like you mentioned before, or common parts, components are inside. But maybe, you know, when you are speaking about international, then you're speaking about sometimes about standardization. And maybe, Lars, you can step in a little bit. You're smiling, that's good. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I would love to do that. I would even have loved this more with you in person, on site. So for health-related reasons, I cannot be with you. I enjoy our community so much and also our collaboration. So this is a pity. Anyway, well, I just can complement what you have said before. Why have we grouped together as DSBA? It is, and perfectly fine, like Ulrich said, we are stronger together than all of us alone. And we have to bring light into the jungle of data spaces, because data spaces are a holistic endeavor. So this is a true, well, game changer for making data economy and also AI happen. So therefore, we are well seeing this issue of, or this species of data space from different perspectives. And key at the end is interoperability. We know that we have different levels of interoperability, and that is what you have to consider when you build a data space, referring to Ulrich again. So it is not like, okay, you can download a data space and push a button and then there it is. Well, no, you have to cover and follow a lot of challenges. So legal interoperability, organizational interoperability, semantic interoperability, technical interoperability. You have to respect all of this. You have to find solutions for all of this. And then you can build a data space. And also a lot of different players are needed to really conduct this challenge. And therefore, well, you need to find a common sense. And that is what we are doing in DSBA. We start with the smallest common denominator so that you can really build a data space. Because if you have a look at these 4 layers of interoperability, it's all about consensus, about harmonizing, about finding the smallest common denominator. And, well, on one hand side, it's like very hands-on. At the end, you can call it a standard, a de facto standard, and also formal standard. I will share that with you a little bit later. And that is exactly what we are doing. We are working on all of these levels, and at the center of this is interoperability and trust. The good thing about data spaces is, like with the mobile communication networks, it makes all data endpoints interoperable because you can trust that everything is working fine. You can take your phone and call someone in Spain, not knowing if he or she is in Spain, and it's just working. You rely on the infrastructure. And that is what we bring in with the 4 organizations, interoperability and trust. We have done that on a conceptual level, so we have conceptually made interoperability and trust available. Now we can show how you design a data space with an architecture paper that Ulrich referred to. And now we are in this twilight zone to build data spaces. So you can build a data space. It's not all fine. It's not all there. It's not all in commercial software, but you can build it. And there will be much more. And therefore, what we are doing in DSBA in the next step is to work more on the standardization so that we not only standardize technology and concepts, but also something that you can use. And, well, this is called software and services, so that it will be shipped from companies, from service providers, that you can download it, that you can use it. And therefore, we need to focus in the next phase on open source software developments. We need to focus on productization of data spaces. So you need to have it built in product portfolios of companies and service providers. And we also need to see how can we find standards for operation of data spaces. So what can we learn from big data spaces like Smart Connected Supplier Network, IONA-X, Catena-X? How do they run their data space? This can be inspiration then for the media data space, which has been kicked off 2 days ago, and all the others to come. So our role is to drive that standardization. And, well, my next statement would also be we should focus on formal standardization, but let's have that later, and I give back to Thomas.
Okay, Lars, many thanks. And standardization is key international. And a pity that you were not here on Wednesday, but we launched on Wednesday. I think Roland was here, but Ulrich, you are also coming a little bit later. We launched together regarding standardization some kind of worldwide agreement. Also agreement is maybe a strong word, worldwide cooperation, because exactly to drive this together, because we are all on the one side depending, but also selling our products and solution to the US, Japan, Korea, you name it, in Europe and so on. And it was also 100% agreeing on this, and maybe also to add, because I had the chance to speak with Tanja Suarez, maybe she's somewhere here in the room. There's also some kind of a project ongoing in the European Commission to look in the same countries how we can agree on standardization. And it was really a pleasure for me here out of Spain to have this, in this case with US, this cooperation or this announced with members of the Department of Energy on the one side, and here also from representatives from Commission and from governments. I think this was a good thing, and the most important thing, sorry for this, they used the same slide and the same wording. And this was also that they're accepting what we are doing. But all is fine. Ulrich, you have spoken about technology. I have spoken a little bit about use cases, why data spaces or data economy is becoming for improvement of a new business model so important for us, for industry, and for us as a society in total. But now we have to bring it somehow to the market. And I look to my left side, to Roland. Can you speak about how we can bring it to the market?
Yeah, for sure. So we had, as Gaia, our Market X event in Vienna in March. And at that time, we already identified about 120 projects that are using technologies any of our organization is actually providing. And we have a couple of lighthouse projects. And the real thing to get it done is, and Lars, you mentioned it, we need to write code and we need to make it real. And the point is we have introduced last year the concept of a digital clearinghouse, which is nothing more, nothing less than a specific set of functions, and it's namely a registration service, a compliance service, and a notary service that allows on neutral spots to obtain compliance on a per service level. And who runs those? It is not the Gaia X ISBL, because we should not run it. It's a totally federated system, and that's why we say it's a democratization of trust. So you have those nodes. We have at the moment 3 nodes and 1 test bed out there. So one is Aruba, one is T-System, and the last one that is going up and running right now is Orange. We have 20 more in the pipeline, also Spanish ones. Because that is a place where you can go to obtain compliance and then participate in the ecosystem. And the market adoption is really important here, because when you look at it, the current large projects have built everything from scratch. So have built the concepts, then they've built the infrastructure, then they try to have some rules there, and then eventually they understood how to operate their data space. In future, this is not sustainable. This is because there is a lot of support on this from our organization, from the public. In future, we need to make sure we have something in place that is very, very generic and is a de facto standard created by us, that can be used by anyone, and that makes it interoperable by design, and not by building up infrastructure and infrastructure and infrastructure for every single data space. Data space as a service is, let's say, the next consequence of what we're trying to do in federated systems. And I'm happy to say that Catena X, one of our largest lighthouse projects, went live last week using the clearinghouse. And next week, AG Data Hub will do the same using Orange as a clearinghouse. So market adoption is happening.
Perfect. Many thanks, Roland. But I think you're hopefully smelling a little bit which component and which power we can develop together, what we have regarding component standards, go to market. But what's next, Anna? How we can, in the next step, what is the innovation part?
Of course, I mean, we set up this infrastructure and all these pillars, and now what we need is to create value. So you mentioned that, Thomas, about creating business value, but also there are other ways of value. With data spaces, we can create value for common good. We can create really, we can do cost reduction. We know there are a lot of examples, and joint innovation. And I want to tackle on the innovation part, and that's something that we discuss a lot in the Data Spaces Business Alliance. We set up the data spaces to really create value and really to drive innovation. So now the question is, how do we do that? Because innovation doesn't come up from the sky. No? We really need to make it happen. So something that we have been working with during these 2 years is really pulling together our hubs. And that's something we are very proud of, and there are many people here in the audience representing those hubs. Like, for instance, we have a lot of representation from the Spanish Gaia X hub. We have a lot of representation from the iSpaces as well, that is the BDVA hubs. I know that there are representation here from the FIWARE iHubs as well, and also from the IDSA hubs and competence centers. So time back, we really sit down and said, okay, we all have these hubs that are the people really working in the territory with the SMEs, with the small and medium-sized enterprises, really the ones changing the mindset in the field, really making sure that our data-driven mindset is really created, and also helping all these companies to be prepared to really connect to the data spaces. So we also realized our hubs were very different, so some were more community building, some were more project ideation, there were more test beds, some there were really very strong infrastructure driven with very technical, and we thought, oh my God, we have so much potential here. Why don't we pull together this network? And that was one of the first ideas when we joined forces. We need to bring this network of hubs together. We've been working now in giving visibility to this network, and actually it's over 100 hubs. And some of them, like the Gaia X hub in Spain, and many of the Gaia X hubs are national hubs. They really bring together the best of the data economy in a country. But there are also hubs, I think, over 35 countries, because thanks to some of the organizations here, we are all over the world. And this is very important, connected also with the topic of standards and internationalization. And of course, we want to continue working with the hubs. And an important part, and just to mention also, that's the part of really bringing all the companies into data spaces. But now again, how do we generate innovation? How do we create disruption? How do we make sure that when a startup joins a data space, finds the data that they need and they find it now, you know, and they really have access to this data? And how, when someone or a group of organizations have good ideas, can really join and testbed sandbox and really experiment with their ideas and really see how valid they are and boom, deploy into the data space. So this is what the hubs are really helping with. And we really want to take the hubs of the 4 organizations, because what they all have in common is they really want to support, you know, they really want to make data spaces happen. So that for us to keep working with this network and integrating this experimentation part in the data spaces is really critical.
Perfect. Many thanks. Now we have spoken a lot about data spaces, data economy, business, improving existing one, or looking for new business opportunities with the application in supply chains or sorry, again, manufacturing example, CO2 footprint, what could be possible now. Maybe to make one final round and regarding, because to get value out of data, we have spoken a lot of data, you need some kind of AI, artificial intelligence and other methods. You maybe need the data to get from the field to report something or to influence something or to train models. And now I make a very short round, but let's say one comment up front. Roland, I will start with you. Don't dig into details of artificial intelligence, because we have Petri here. I heard shortly announced as an important advisory role, when I got it correctly. So you will lose the discussion about AI. Use your perspective on what is needed to make the next steps for artificial intelligence from our perspective.
Well, I would even narrow it down to Gaia's role. AI will need a lot of data, and we need to be able to trust in the data we use for the models. And trust is in the DNA of what we're doing at Gaia. So the trust framework and all these things will help you make sure all the data you collect from sensors, from applications, from data spaces is properly signed and is genuine. The second thing is AI needs a hell of compute power, and that is why we also need to make sure that the infrastructure part is under a trust framework, and that's also a big focus of Gaia, to make sure the infrastructure is also a trustworthy and interoperable infrastructure. And we are, for example, starting to use the framework and the clearinghouses for European partners to utilize hyperscaler infrastructure and innovation to drive AI applications.
Perfect. Many thanks. Now I hand over to Ulrich.
I'll take your microphone. Let me put it in a bit different perspective. We started roughly 10 years ago to create digital platforms. And with the discussion of data spaces, with the approach of data spaces, we are bringing this to another level. But we are still, with data spaces, just collecting data and making data available for processes, for users. Much easier than with digital platforms where everything is, let's say, hard-coded. Now we make it also possible for unknown providers and users of data to get very easy access to these data spaces, but still we are just collecting data, and the real value of this data is generated by solutions like artificial intelligence. So the big value, and we are here at the European Big Data Value Forum, the real value out of data is coming from artificial intelligence. And and here it is important that, as we talked before about standard interfaces, standard data models, that also these AI solutions have easy access to these data spaces to get access to the data and create value to reduce the carbon footprint in a manufacturing supply chain, to improve the traffic situation within a city, and so on. And this is the combination and the interplay we need, and we will further improve.
And maybe, Lars, as you got not an inverted question like last time when you are sitting on a panel. You must know I have challenged him last time. Now, up to you a little bit. What is your thoughts?
Yeah, so just seconding what the colleagues have said. So AI only works with the biggest amount of data endpoints accessible. And that is what we need to do. At the end, our ambition should be, with data spaces, we can make every data endpoint accessible so that we can make of all data that is there, so that we can train AI models and fuel AI services as good as possible. That means we need a standard way to, well, ingress data. And the ingress of data in the ecosystems, this is for me the biggest challenge. Well, what does that mean? So we need to ship interoperability and trust by default. So Roland said by design, yes, we are in the phase of by design, but also we need to ship it by default via software and services. It needs to build in cloud service offerings into products that we have all over the world. So that is just there, like commodity. Complete, so trustworthy with usage control, so that you can self-determinedly control what happens with your data. And therefore we need global standards. And referring to what I said before, we are, as DSBA, on our track to really create global standards. 4 weeks ago, we've been in Washington with ISO, and we have successfully approved and started a new work item where we define data spaces on a global level with a data space protocol in its center and the DSBA concepts. And with that, everyone in the world, in all countries, in all the markets, will know how to bring in interoperability and trust. And this will push AI. And this is our core ambition, because data is, well, rolling on a global scale, and therefore we need to go for global standardization. We also take actions on European level with Sensenelec to also respect the European legislation, and we need to combine it on a global scale. And then we can let data flow and bring AI to action. This is our ambition now.
Perfect. Many thanks, Lars. And maybe Anna, last question, or last put you on stage. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so actually totally agree with my colleagues, and linked to the topic that Lars brought up of the trustworthiness. I have to say what is needed: data quality, data quality, data quality, right? And we all know that the paradigm of data quality has changed with the AI Act. And now we need to make sure that the data spaces offer this data quality, and that that's already guaranteed by design. And we really need to work a lot to make that happen. That's one of the challenges that we have now, actually working together with the people that are more experts in AI. In BDBA, we have 2 task forces working in this topic at the moment, ETAMI, and also our task force in data spaces are prioritizing this topic because it's essential. And just two very minor thoughts, I really think the data and AI is a marriage for life. And I mean, AI is going to help data spaces so much, because we all know how expensive and kind of boring data curation is to prepare data. We know how expensive it is for companies. AI will help us a lot. It will help us with semantic interoperability. Now it's a topic that is everywhere, large language models for semantic interoperability. And then, as has been said by my colleagues, we really need to design data spaces, to really design the data models, to make sure that we generate value out of the data with AI. So integrate with all the AI ecosystems, AI on demand, with the devs, with the networks of excellence, and to make sure that we build together between AI and data a common digital ecosystem.
Okay, many, many thanks. And, take with you, we're working in an ecosystem, not ecosystem together. We're putting our heads, our brains, our people somehow on a joint journey with others. I look to Petri. Take this with you, and we are just working on want to create impact. Many thanks.
Thank you. Thank you to my colleagues, and before leaving the stage to Thomas, as we said, we continue these conversations, and actually we will continue these conversations in 2 weeks in the Gaia X Summit that will take place actually 9th and 10th of November here in Spain, in Alicante. So please don't miss that. And now I leave the floor to Thomas Hahn.
Yeah. Okay, thanks, Anna. So now is a really, I'm very honored to invite Secretary of State Carmen Artigas on stage to make the closing for our event, for our fantastic conference. But I have to say 2 words up front. Many, many thanks to you, participants, team, and especially to Spain hosting this event and giving us the opportunity in doing this here in this fantastic environment. Please come on stage.
Dear all, it is an honor for me to close this European Big Data Value Forum, a Spanish presidency event where we finally talk about the value of data. Thank you very much for having chosen Valencia, for organizing this great event, for having come to Spain, and for the great organization and success of this event with, I think, 600 or more participant lives and some others connecting online. This forum represents the triple helix: how to advance public policy, how to advance in industrial initiatives, and how to advance in research initiatives. These 3 axes just focus to make data work for AI, for business, and for the public interest. The discussions and presentations over the last 3 days have centered on how data and AI need to integrate in our present reality in a sustainable way, as well as help us prepare for the future realities. As we stand on the edge of rapid technological advances with innovations such as generative AI or virtual and immersive worlds, I must say that Spain's objectives resonate deeply on these topics, underscoring a thoughtful and sustainable vision for our shared digital future. Digital technologies, as you have seen these days, have a lot to do with economic growth. And in particular in Spain, by 2030, 45% of the benefits in the Spanish market will come from AI through automation, assistance for decision-making, or more personalized offers and services. Only in 2020, the digital sector represented 19% of our GDP. But today, in 2023, it already represents 23%. We hope that by 2030, the digital sector will account for 40% of our GDP. Already today, if the data economy was a vertical, it will be the 2nd largest vertical in contribution of our national GDP just after construction. So the amount of data we are gathering only makes sense if we are going to use it for our economy. for our purpose and for a better and more efficient business models. So economic growth at any cost, however, is not the way forward. The digital transformation must be human-centered and rights-oriented. And this is why Spain was the first country to launch a Charter of Digital Rights already in year 2020 that has set the way followed by many. For example, it inspired the European Declaration of Digital Rights and Principles last year, and with the rest of the OECD countries, we committed to work towards a recommendation on preserving rights in the digital age during the last 2022 OECD Digital Economy Ministerial meeting that we held in Canary Islands. But also earlier this year, we signed the Ibero-American Charter on Digital Principles and Rights with 22 countries of Ibero-America. As you know, Spain is a reference country in the world in the development and implementation of artificial intelligence policies and legislation. In the 2023 AI report by Stanford University, Spain ranks the first country in the world with the highest number of legislative proceedings containing mentions of AI, 273, only in 2022. And besides this ethical framework, our national strategy on AI foresees key strategic axes that focus on investment and innovation or developing data platforms for AI. I would like to focus on just a few initiatives that I believe are relevant for the discussion that you have had during these days. In our missions for AI, we have funded 5 lighthouse R&D projects that will use AI to solve current societal challenges with an amount of 50 million euros in total. Some of these challenges are sustainable energy, personalized medicine, or the efficiency of agro-food value chains. In our national program for green algorithms, we have committed 278 million euros to ensure that AI is developed green by design. And by default, developing also a quality seal for green tech. Apart from financing the development of green AI, we are also funding projects that use AI to support the green transition. In our strategic project of the economy of a Spanish language, we have allocated 1,100 million of public investment to boost natural language processing in Spanish, to counter the hegemony of English in AI. But we hope to mobilize also 1,100 million of additional private investments. And in order to be able to fund the future unicorns in Europe, and particularly in Spain, we have launched the Next Tech Fund, which is a public-private investment fund of a total of 8 billion euros to support Spain-based companies that not in the startup phase, but on the scale-up phase, and especially focus in deep tech. Now I'm here because, apart from my role as Secretary of State, we are holding the presidency of the Council of the EU. And in that role, we are leading the trilogue negotiations to adopt the EU regulation on AI, the so-called AI Act, hoping that we can finish it during this year. And as you probably know, the future AI Act will regulate those AI systems that might have a serious impact on health, safety, or fundamental rights for individuals. The AI systems will be classified according to the level of risk: minimum, limited, high risk, or unacceptable risk. Just precisely this last Tuesday, we had our 4th trialogue, and it was clear that it's difficult because the stakes are very high, but we are getting there. And looking at possible landing zones in view of closing the deal during this presidency. I think it is a historical moment. I always say that the European AI Act is not a legal standard. It's not a technical standard. We want it to become a moral standard, telling the rest of the world what we consider it is acceptable to do with our data, what is considered is acceptable to do with AI, and what is not acceptable. Because technology cannot be just developed without any limits. We must keep human agency, and technology must serve the people, not the other way around. So the Act, as you have already seen, also foresees the creation of sandboxes that would help pioneers and innovators to develop trustworthy NI. I think you had a great opportunity to listen to a very in-depth presentation of my team, Alberto, on the sandbox on AI and the status, and anticipating, therefore, the entry into force of the regulation on AI. This sandbox will give companies, especially SMBs, the opportunity to test and put into practice principles targeting high-risk systems that might be put on general-purpose AI and even on foundational models. This will reduce barriers that hamper innovation implementation costs for SMEs, which represent 99% of the business fabric and generate 70% of the jobs in Spain. During this year, we have already been working on the implementation of guidelines for each of the 7 principles applicable to high-risk AI: data governance, documentation, robustness, cybersecurity, human oversight, risk management, etc. And we are preparing the royal decree that comes after this call of interest that has already counted with more than 50 companies interested in participating in the sandbox. But also, we are doing our homework, because we are the first country to create a national agency for the supervision of AI. And we are also the country that is hosting the European Center for Algorithm Transparency based in Sevilla. As you know, that Spain has also pledged to become the seat of a future international agency on AI. And this is why I'm pleased to announce that precisely yesterday, the UN Secretary General announced the creation of a high-level artificial intelligence board to advise the Secretary General that will work to propose international governance of AI under the leadership of the UN Tech Envoy. And I've been so honored to become a member of this board and be part of the co-chairs, so one of the 2 co-chairs. So I think that we can use this platform to share with the rest of the world European vision on how data must be shared with trust to support the development of trustworthy AI. And I think that are the values that we need to share with the rest of the world and find the right balance on the international governance bodies. We did that already in the early days of the Secretary of State. In 2020, we created the Data Office with the Chief Data Officer that you know well, Alberto, aiming to address the technical challenges and ecosystem coordination in this digital landscape. Because data is non-rebellious asset. We can reuse it many times. This allows to take advantage to the opportunity derived from the exchange and reuse of data. This exchange ultimately leads to increase in volumes and granularity of data, as well in higher quality data sets. And that is key to develop trustworthy AI. But for AI to access all this data, we need to ensure that data spaces communicate across data holders, sectors, verticals, and nations. And for this, we also need a trustworthy cloud that allows for such data to flow with trust. However, we will only achieve that through the following principles: traceability, transparency, interconnection, and portability. The bottom line is, as I said, is the following. Building trustworthy AI requires trustworthy data and a trustworthy cloud infrastructure. And that requires coordination at EU level that drives practical implementation, monitors its operation, and ensures that in the meantime, we establish these standards for all of it. And this is why Spain is part of the Gaia X family, with a specific hub, whose operations are to start on these principles. I'm also very happy to hear the announcement to set up an international manufacturing cooperation, Manufacturing X, that includes not only European Union, but also USA and Japan. And I encourage the Spanish ecosystem to join this endeavor with the leadership of Gaia X Spain. Congratulations, Thomas Hahn, and your team for these great achievements. In summary, the future of data and artificial intelligence depends on our collective vision. Spain's efforts, combined with European initiatives, lay the foundations for a secure digital future. But then we need to, first of all, be able to coordinate and orchestrate the European ecosystem to allow for to drive practical implementations, to monitor efficient operations, and to advance in the standardization of trustworthy cloud and data labels. We must not forget that the data sphere is growing. Already in this year, 2023, it seems to account 25 zettabytes. But in just 2 more years, it will double its size as more or less 51 zettabytes. And 60% of the data that is not yet being created will derive from machine interactions more than human interactions. So it is critical for the future competitiveness of Europe that we are able to build those industrial data spaces across our countries and nations. Collaboration between the public and private sectors is not only beneficial, but essential for our competitiveness. Together, we are prepared to set the global standards, fusing innovation with our core European values. As the claim of this conference says, we must put data and AI into action to create sustainable impact and to make this future vision a reality. Thank you very much.
So thank you very much. Lunch is ready for everyone, and really thank you for joining the event. Enjoy lunch.